Training barefoot is one of the best kept secrets in the fitness industry because it forces you to think like an athlete, and companies are starting to realize that potential. First we saw the Vivo Barefoot motors, then came the Teardrop Zeros, and now we've got these, the remarkably good looking FeelGround MOVE. As you can probably tell from how clean these are, I haven't actually tried them on yet, but fortunately I am a strength and conditioning coach here at BAMBU in Bali. So today I am going to be putting them through the test to see if they're any good and if they can survive your workout. Before I completely trash these shoes though, let's have a little look at what they're bringing to the table, starting off with what makes them barefoot. Unlike most shoes that you might see in the gym, these have got a very thin, very flexible sole with something called a wide toe box. At just 4 millimeters thick, these soles give you a lot of feedback through the ground, which lets you really focus on what you're doing. And then that wideness you have through the toe area, it lets your toes splay out, and that gives you a very, very stable base in things like squats and deadlifts. In fact, we see a lot of the best lifters in the world now choosing to lift in barefoot shoes. From the outside at least, the moves are going a level beyond other shoes on the market with things like this thin stitch sole and a very well ventilated fabric upper that comes in a few different colorways. I decided to get mine in white with this nice sort of tan and colored accents, which, if I'm honest, I'm guessing by the end of this video will have been a mistake. Right off the bat, they're feeling really, really easy to put on and probably comparable in width to something like the Primer Slides. I'm also really, really pleased to see that they opted to use fewer lacing straps than they did on their old model, the court side, which, if I'm honest, were a bit of a pain to get on and off. I'm also, so far, really enjoying the padding that they're using right here on the Achilles. That's something that neither the motors or the Drop Zero has, and it is feeling really quite nice and flexible on the foot. Let me know if you think I should do a full review video comparing all three of those shoes. I'm actually going to start the testing off with a little bit of cardio, which is unusual for me, using the Woodway trainers, which are somewhere over there. So if you've never ran on a Woodway before, it's a really interesting experience, particularly if you are trying to learn how to run barefoot, because the angle of the treadmill helps receive the foot itself. So highly recommend, if you're starting to try and learn how to run in barefoot shoes, you use one of these. Now, what I'm particularly interested in when it comes to these things is not only the thickness of the sole and how much feedback I'm going to be getting through my feet, but also how it actually fits comfort-wise, whether or not my toe is going to be bouncing off the end of the shoe, whether that Achilles support is going to make any difference. So I'm going to tick up the pace a little bit now. We're going to film some stuff in slow-mo for you guys back at home, and yeah, let's find out. Off the bat, it feels really quite nice. I got loads of space around the toe box, so toe isn't hitting, which is great. The Achilles support also feels really, really nice. The Woodway is giving a lot of feedback, which is great. So those 4 millimeter soles, I can actually feel each one of the treadmill's treads, which is pretty nice and unique experience. So yeah, he's feeling pretty good. I'm gonna keep running for about another K, then I'm gonna be jumping off and doing some heavy deadlifts with Craig, who is just over there, getting himself ready to live with a big man. So I made a little bit of a last minute change from deadlifts to back squats, but that's all right. The reason that we like barefoot shoes for heavy lifting is it gives you a lot more ground feel. It makes you much more aware of you are in space. And when it comes to shifting the weight around in the foot, trying to maintain those 3 points of contact, it becomes much, much easier to maintain that. The 4 mil soles on these are definitely giving me a lot of feedback, which is quite nice. But lacking that heel elevation does mean if you are limited for ankle mobility in squats, barefoot shoes might not be the right option for you. Now, seeing as though I'm going to be back squatting 100 and I can't talk and squat at the same time without losing my core engagement, Craig behind me is going to riff off a little bit about what he looks for as a coach while people are squatting when it comes to foot position. So go for it, Craig.
So the main thing I'm going to look at is those 3 points of contact. So we want that heel, big toe and pinky toe, which Clem's doing really well here. The other things I'm going to make sure of is the bar is going to be staying over that midfoot as he drives up.
Shorts.
Also, he's doing a really good job of keeping that back angle exactly the same through here, the whole squat. Nice tight brace, and he's moving really well.
I've ripped my pants open.
Yeah, I know.
At least I wasn't talking at the same time. Look at that. At least I'm wearing black shorts as well. All right, now I've ripped my shorts wide open. I'm going to leave Craig to his lifting before I do any more damage. I'm going to go do some plyometrics. We're going to start testing the limits of these shoes now and how well they're going to cope from a durability standpoint, but also that impact protection for your foot when you're dropping off boxes or running long distance or anything like that. So let's leave Craig to it and we'll go check that out. So this one's all about power transfer, driving that power down into the floor and then receiving that impact on the other side. Now, I'm not expecting these to do great at this test. 4 millimeters is not a lot of sole, but it'll be interesting to see. So as far as plyometric goes, they did about as well as I expected. You're getting a lot of force down into the ground. The cushion isn't absorbing any of that because there is no cushion. But then on the other side of that, where you're receiving the floor, you do have to be very mindful. You have to make sure you're using your ankles, have to be making sure you're using your knees and your hips and absorb all of that impact of your body coming down. So if you're doing a lot of sports like basketball, you might want something a little bit thicker than these. What we're going to do with our testing now is going to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more explosive. And I'm going to go into the main room and try some rope climbs just to see how well they hold up there. I'll be honest, I don't see the fabric holding up very well on these at all, but hey, they've surprised me so far. They've actually impressed me so far, so you never know. Maybe they will survive. Maybe I'm not going to need a brand new white pair after finishing this. I'm just going to go for 20 rope climb pulls, so jumping up, wrap my feet around the rope, standing up, dropping back down again, just to see how the rubber performs and how the fabric performs as well. If there's anything that's going to break the fabric on these shoes down, it's going to be this. So I'm going to get stuck in. Oh, there we go, there's 20. I've broken the rope. I've definitely given my hands a little bit of work. Let's have a look at the shoes. Okay, so we've just finished the session, just finished with 20 rope climbs, and it's time to take a look and see how these shoes performed. But before we get to whether or not I have damaged them, let's start with a little bit of an overview as to how they did. As far as they went on the cardio equipment, on the Woodway, they felt really good on the foot. They gave lots of ground feel through that very thin 4 millimeter sole. And they've got loads and loads and loads of room in them, particularly around the toe box area, while still being able to feel nice and snug around the mid, and particularly on the heel as well with that nice little cushioned area. Would I recommend them for running? Absolutely, but if you do plan on running in them, maybe go for a color other than white. Moving on from there, we went into a strength-based movement with some squats. Again, building on the ground feel that we had on the Woodway, they gave me lots and lots of feedback. So I was able to really shift my weight around into the toes, into the heel, into the outside edge of my foot for those 3 points of contact. They felt fantastic, and I've got a lot of time and a lot of respect for how grounded they made me feel. The plyometrics were probably their weakest part of the testing so far. They put a lot of force down into the ground, that minimal to zero cushioning really let me put so much force into the floor. But on landing, there's no cushioning, there's no impact protection whatsoever. So you do have to be very mindful of how you absorb that impact with your ankles, your knees, and your hips. If you are on the beginner end of the spectrum with barefoot shoes, I would not recommend these for plyometrics. And the same is true for high impact sports or high plyometric sports, things like basketball. They might be suitable if you've spent time and energy and effort conditioning your body to be able to receive a lot of impact whilst in a barefoot shoe. But if you haven't, both laterally and just ordinary wear in impact sports like that, these are not going to be the best shout for you. And I'd instead recommend checking out something maybe like the Vivo Tracker Deacon Low Top, just because it has those lugs and is going to provide a little bit more impact protection. The last test was a functional fitness test, and I used them in two different places. One, handstand push-ups against the wall, and two on the rope climbs. For the handstand push-ups, they actually glided really well thanks to this nice heel suede. They slid right up and down on the wall with the rubber catching a couple of times but only when I wanted it to, in the bottom and the top position, which provided a lot of stability. I really enjoyed that. The place that I honestly thought these shoes were gonna fall apart was on the rope climbs, particularly because they are bright white and because they do have a very sticky sole, which typically means a softer compound rubber that is quicker to break down. I was fully expecting us to see somewhere on the outside here. Maybe it was gonna get in on the stitching. I definitely thought there was gonna be some sort of where that rope had been pulling and tugging and building a lot of friction against that outside material. This is the bottom shoe. This is the right shoe. This is the one that would have taken the brunt of that rope, and there is not a mark on it apart from a very, very light glazing of chalk just here, which rubs right off. So I think this is a massive improvement from FeelGround in terms of durability. Would I recommend the white color for the gym? No, I wouldn't, but there are 3 other colorways to choose from. So these shoes all together are a very, very, very good option if you plan on getting into barefoot training. Check out the comment section to see the final grading of these shoes and let me know what you think down in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Apart from that, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you soon.